It started with a knock. Not once, not twice, but always 3 times. Always between 2:13 and 2:16 a.m. As if someone was watching the second hand. As if time itself had something to say. The sound wasn't loud. It wasn't panicked. It was deliberate. It was patient. The kind of knock that doesn't ask permission. It announces itself, like it already belongs inside. I was alone. New house. New neighborhood. Trying to start over. Trying to forget what came before. And for a while the silence felt like healing. Until it didn't. The first time it happened, I was asleep on the couch. I remember waking up to the sound. 3 knocks. Then nothing. I waited. No voice. No car. No wind. I turned on the porch light. Opened the door. Saw nothing. Felt something. Something wrong. But it was quiet and I had work in the morning. So I locked the door. Double-checked the windows. Told myself it was just a delivery mix-up. And went back to sleep. The second time I was awake. Reading. Lights on. It was 2:14 a.m. again. I was sure this time. The knock was identical. Same rhythm. Same pause. Like a message I didn't understand. But I didn't open the door. I just waited. Watched the shadow under the frame. And listened. To a silence that didn't feel empty. It felt aware. The third time I didn't get up. I couldn't. It wasn't fear. It was restraint. Something told me that if I opened the door, I wouldn't close it again. Something told me, whatever was outside, wasn't looking to be let in. It was waiting to be seen. I called the police. They came. They looked around. They said no signs of forced entry. Told me to get more lighting, maybe install a ring cam. Said these things happen. But these things don't leave muddy footprints without a trail. These things don't knock on exactly the same second 3 nights in a row. These things don't stop your security system from recording, only during the time they're standing in front of it. The house felt colder after they left, like something had passed through it, something I hadn't seen, but had seen me. And when I tried to sleep that night, I kept the hallway light on. Told myself it was nothing, just coincidence, just imagination. But that light? It flickered off at 2:12, and at 2:14. He knocked again. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I just sat there, staring at the door, waiting for the knock to come again, wondering if maybe this time he wouldn't knock. He'd just open it. Every time I called for help, he was already gone. Until the night, he wasn't. My name is Jordan Matthews. I'm 29 years old. Tech support. Nothing glamorous. I spend my days listening to strangers sigh into headsets. People who don't know me. People who don't want to know me. They just want the noise to stop. The blinking light to disappear. The connection to come back. Most of them forget I exist the second they hang up. And honestly, I'm okay with that. I moved into this place on a Monday, late April. Still cold enough at night to feel like winter hadn't fully let go. The lease was short-term. The ad was plain. No pictures of the backyard. Just a few lines of text. 1-bedroom rental. Quiet neighborhood. Immediate availability. That was enough. I didn't want anything beautiful. Nothing with memories soaked into the walls. Nothing that reminded me of what I was trying to forget. I just needed space. Empty walls. Blank rooms. Silence. The house sits near the end of a cul-de-sac just outside Boise. Off the main road. No traffic. No sidewalk. No children's chalk drawings on the pavement. Just pine trees taller than the power lines and a street that doesn't lead anywhere important. It feels like a place that disappeared long ago and never realized it. It's a 1-story box of drywall and drafty corners. The kind of house that wasn't built to last, but no one bothered to tear down. White paint flaking from the windowsills. A porch swing that never faces the street. You could live here for years and never be seen. Inside, it's narrow. The hallway runs straight down the center like a spine that doesn't bend. The kitchen is barely wide enough for two people to pass through. And the bedroom still smells like whoever lived here before me. Cologne maybe. Or mildew. I had surgery on my knee 6 weeks before I moved in. Slipped coming down a flight of stairs. Tore something I didn't know existed. Recovery was slow. Pain meds made it slower. I lost time. Whole afternoons blurred into darkness. I'd wake up on the floor, unsure if I'd fallen or just decided not to get back into bed. I didn't tell anyone I moved. My mom calls on Sundays. My sister texts every other week. But no one knows the address. That's not a metaphor. It's a fact. I brought everything I needed in one trip. Clothes, laptop, coffee maker, a blanket from my childhood I don't remember packing. I didn't bring pictures, didn't bring books, didn't bring anything I might one day miss. And still, it didn't feel empty. Even when the lights were off, the house didn't feel still. There were sounds I couldn't place. The hum of the power lines outside, sure. But also, something else. The kind of quiet that sounds like listening. The kind that makes you pause before turning a corner. I didn't decorate. Didn't unpack most of the boxes. I wasn't planning to stay. I wasn't planning anything. I thought if I could just stop moving, stop thinking, stop remembering, I could start over. Erase the last 2 years. Erase her. I wanted peace. Not comfort. Not healing. Just stillness. Just a place to rest and not feel watched by my own past. But peace is delicate. You don't always know when you have it, but you know the exact second it's gone. And in that house, on that street, in that sliver of time I thought I was invisible. Someone noticed me. Someone watched. And then, someone knocked. I just wanted quiet. But the thing about quiet, it leaves space for things to answer back. I went to bed around midnight. Wasn't tired, just done. Done pretending to read. Done pretending to relax. The kind of sleep where you lie still for hours and finally drift into that half place. Not awake, not gone. You can still hear things. You're still aware enough to feel time moving. I was there, in that strange borderland between today and tomorrow. And then, 3 knocks. It wasn't a mistake. Wasn't a pipe or an animal or the house settling. It was a hand. Someone using their knuckles. Each knock exactly 1 second apart. I didn't move at first. Didn't even open my eyes. My body froze, but my ears, they locked in. They knew what I heard. I sat up. The hallway beyond the bedroom looked darker than usual. Like the shadows had gathered closer, more dense somehow. I listened for footsteps. None. I waited to hear a car. Nothing. No sound at all. Not even the wind. I checked my phone. 2:14 a.m. That exact time. Right in the middle of the hour when everything feels more alive than it should be. Not alive with energy. Alive like it's waiting. I moved slowly. Still on pain meds from the knee surgery, so every step felt disconnected. As if my limbs had their own logic. One hand on the wall for balance. One hand carrying my phone like it could somehow protect me. I didn't turn on the lights. Just walked toward the front door in silence. When I reached the door, I didn't open it. I didn't even touch the handle. I leaned forward, looked through the peephole, saw nothing. And I mean that. I didn't see a shadow. Didn't see someone stepping away. Didn't even see the flicker of movement you expect when someone walks out of frame. It was just the porch, still empty, colorless in the glow of the half-working bulb. I waited a full minute before I turned the porch light on. It flickered. Once. Then again. A long, slow buzz, and then it held. I turned the deadbolt. Cracked the door. Nothing. No one. But the air had changed. It didn't feel like outside air. It felt stale. Like whatever had been on the porch had been standing there for a long time. Long enough to go still. Long enough to cool the night down by itself. I stepped outside. Just past the threshold. Only far enough to feel vulnerable. And that's exactly what I felt. Exposed. Like walking out in front of an audience, but you don't know what play you're in. Or who's watching. I looked up and down the road. No headlights. No footsteps. No animals. Not even the wind. The night had no shape. It was just there. Waiting to be interpreted. I whispered something. I think I said, "Hello?" It felt stupid as soon as I said it. Not because I thought no one would answer, but because I felt like someone already had. I stepped back inside, closed the door, locked it, top and bottom, then sat on the floor with my back against the frame. Just sat there, listening. Nothing came. No second round of knocking. No footsteps walking away. Just the hum of the fridge kicking on in the kitchen like it had been holding its breath too. I stayed there for maybe an hour. I couldn't sleep after that. Didn't feel scared exactly, just unsure. Uncertain in a way that didn't feel like anxiety. More like I'd missed something. Something small. Something important. The next morning, everything looked the same. Same empty porch. Same quiet street. Same trees unmoved. Except for one thing. A boot print. One. Not a trail. Just a single full-pressure step. Right in the middle of the mat. Toes pointed directly at the door. No matching print in the dirt. No marks on the sidewalk. No indication of where it came from, or where it went. I checked the footage. The one camera I had outside, cheap, motion-triggered, low resolution. It should have caught something. Anything. But the file had a gap. It froze. At exactly 2:12 a.m. and didn't start recording again until 2:17. Nothing. No figure. No motion. No approach. Just silence. Interrupted. Like someone edited out the moment I needed most. I didn't sleep the next night. Didn't even try. I sat in the living room. Lights on. Phone in my hand. And I waited. Not because I thought he'd come back, but because I knew he would. The second night didn't feel like a continuation. Felt like a test. Like someone or something was checking to see how I'd react. If I'd still be watching. If I'd go to sleep. If I'd open the door again. I didn't. I didn't even get close. Instead, I spent the day fortifying. Like a soldier who knew the next battle wouldn't be fought with guns, but with inches, with cracks, with whatever you leave exposed. I went to the hardware store before lunch. Bought motion sensor lights. Basic ones. Not because I thought they'd stop anything, but because I wanted proof. Proof that something moved when I couldn't see it. Because whatever knocked the night before was too careful, too still, too deliberate to leave it up to chance. I bought a second camera too. One with better resolution. Infrared. Said it could record in total darkness. That's what the box said. Total darkness. I remember staring at those words longer than I should have. By 6 p.m. the setup was ready. One light above the garage. One facing the back fence. New camera mounted at the corner of the house, pointed toward the bedroom window. I checked the footage. Walked back and forth. Lights turned on like they were supposed to. Nothing fancy. Just motion and light on. Motion gone, light off. It was simple. Simple things used to make me feel safe. They don't anymore. That night I didn't sit on the couch. Didn't lie in bed. I sat by the window. The one in the kitchen that gave me the widest view of the backyard. Didn't turn on the light. Just watched the yard slowly fade into black. Around 10 p.m. I noticed it. At first, I thought it was just my mind playing tricks, like it does when you stare too long at something empty. But then it got stronger. The smell. The unmistakable stench of burnt tobacco. It wasn't smoke in the air. It was embedded, woven into the walls, the carpet, the couch cushions. It came from nowhere, and yet it was everywhere. Someone had been smoking. Here. Recently. I opened every cabinet in the kitchen. Checked the stove. Nothing. I went to the hallway halfway down toward the bedroom, and that's when I heard it. Just once. The window creaked. Not rattled. Not shook. Creaked. The way old hinges sound when someone doesn't want to be heard, but doesn't care if they are. I froze. Mid-step. My phone was charging on the counter behind me. I didn't move. Didn't blink. Just listened. The neighbor's dog lost its mind. It wasn't a warning bark. It was fear. Raw. Like it could smell something it had no name for. It kept barking loud and fast, then suddenly stopped. I still hadn't moved. The smell was thicker now, like someone had blown smoke directly into the vents. It clung to my throat, to the inside of my nose, and still, the house was silent. I turned to the window. The curtains weren't moving, but the room felt wrong. Like it had been rearranged, but only by an inch. Just enough that you wouldn't notice unless you were already afraid. The backyard light snapped on. 3 seconds. For seconds later, it flashed again. Nothing on camera. No shadows. No outlines. Just darkness that blinked back into view. I watched the live feed. Nothing moved. No insects. No wind. Just the flicker of artificial light, struggling to find something it couldn't touch. I stayed there all night, didn't move from the kitchen. Every sound became a signal. Every silence became a threat. When daylight came, I went outside. No reason, no plan, just an instinct, like walking back through the place where something almost happened. Under the bedroom window, I found 2 things. A cigarette butt flattened, still damp with heat, and a piece of folded white paper, clean, perfectly creased, tucked between the siding and the baseboard, like it had been left for me, like it wasn't the first time. I opened it slowly. No stains, no damage, just black ink written in large, uneven letters. You never answer. It wasn't a message. It was an observation, like someone had knocked many times before, and had finally decided to speak. Or maybe, they were just getting impatient. There's a kind of exhaustion that comes with vigilance, not the kind where you feel tired, the kind where you stop expecting rest altogether. That's what I felt by night 3. Not anxious, not alert, just always aware. Like my body had decided it was no longer safe to relax. I didn't move from the kitchen that night. Sat at the table, laptop open, camera feed running, microwave untouched, curtains still drawn back just enough to see the yard. The smell from the night before still lingered, that same stale tobacco haze. It clung to the vents, to the fibers of the carpet, to my clothes. The cigarette wasn't just a message, it was a marker, a reminder that whoever left it had stood there long enough to finish it, and long enough to enjoy it. I told myself that the lights, the cameras, they'd be enough. At the very least, they'd see something, catch something, because if I had to keep living like this, I needed proof I wasn't imagining the patterns. The feed ticked past midnight. 1 a.m. Nothing. The wind outside barely moved. Even the trees looked tired. I blinked slower. Thought about giving up. Just for one night. Thought about sleep. But I didn't move. Didn't want to miss it. If it came back. At exactly 2:14 a.m., the motion light blinked on. Same as before. Same precise timing. Same mechanical hum. But this time, something was there. A figure. Just outside the light's radius. Too far to be clearly visible. Too close to be a mistake. He stood still. So still it took me a few seconds to realize he wasn't part of the fence line. Or a glitch in the feed. He didn't sway. Didn't flinch at the sudden light. He just stood. Like someone who had every reason to be there. And no interest in hiding. I leaned in, squinted at the screen. The figure was tall. Broad. But it wasn't the shape that unsettled me. It was the posture. He wasn't looking at the house. He wasn't facing the camera. He was turned just slightly. Like he was listening to something behind him. Like he was waiting for a signal. And then, his head turned. A small, quiet motion. Precise. Just the head. Nothing else moved. It turned in the direction of the camera. As if he heard it, or knew it was there. He didn't react with surprise. He didn't leave. He just adjusted his attention. And that's when I saw it. In one frame. Paused just right. His face caught a sliver of light. Enough to make out the shape of his mouth. His lips. Pulled back slightly. A smile. Not exaggerated. Not theatrical. Just enough to say, "I know you're watching." I stared at that frame for over an hour. Didn't blink. Didn't speak. Just let it sit on my screen like a warning. Or a reply. I called the police. Didn't even hesitate this time. Didn't care if it sounded crazy. I just needed someone else to see what I saw. 2 officers arrived 20 minutes later. One tall, one older. They looked tired. Not in a hurry. Like they had answered this kind of call before. And already knew how it would end. The younger one stood behind me, arms crossed, watching the screen. He watched it twice. Didn't say much. Just nodded. And finally said, "Could be a prank. Or someone watching you. Weird, sure. But nothing happened, right?" Nothing happened. That's what they always say. As if presence alone isn't threat enough. They checked the yard. Found no prints. No cigarette butts this time. No broken branches. They left. Didn't file a report. Didn't offer advice. Just said to call again if it escalated. When they were gone, I sat back down at the table. Opened the footage again. Paused it on the smile. Stared. Not because I was looking for more detail, but because I was trying to understand what kind of person stands in the dark like that. Still, smiling. Without a word. Without fear. Without leaving. I didn't sleep. Didn't even lie down. I sat there until sunrise watching that frame. The shape. The posture. That slight smile. Like he knew the house better than I did. Like he'd been inside before. I kept watching the door. All night. Waiting. But I didn't see him come in. You learn to recognize normal. It's not a sound. It's not a smell. It's the absence of questions. When you walk into a room and nothing makes you pause, that's normal. But once you pause, once you start asking, was that chair moved? Was this light on? Did I close that door? Then it's already gone. By the 4th night, I didn't sleep because I wanted answers. Now I was staying awake because I was afraid of the questions. The ones I couldn't even ask out loud. Like, what if he's already inside? I must have dozed off sometime after midnight. Not deep sleep. Not even rest. Just absence. An hour or two where nothing got in. Nothing got out. I woke up at 3:07 a.m. Exactly. I remember the clock. Red numbers. Static background. 3:07. My mouth was dry. My head felt off. Like the air was thinner. And the temperature. It wasn't colder. It wasn't warmer. Just wrong. I sat up on the couch. Everything looked the same. Blanket tossed over the armrest. Mug still on the floor next to the outlet. TV off. Curtains drawn. But I knew before I stood up. Knew before I turned the hallway corner. Knew before I even looked at it. My bedroom door was open. Not just cracked. Not nudged. Wide open. All the way. I hadn't left it like that. I never left it like that. Since I moved in, I always closed that door at night. Locked it sometimes. Not because I thought I needed to, but because I was beginning to feel like the rest of the house wasn't mine anymore. I walked to the doorway. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. Like the hallway was going to measure me as I passed through it. The room was untouched. No drawers open. No clothes disturbed. Everything in the same place. Except the smell. It hit me before I even crossed the threshold. That same cigarette smoke. Not fresh. Not lit. But lingering. The smell of something that had burned hours ago. Then stayed. Inside. Trapped in the curtains. Embedded in the carpet. Settled into the mattress like it had been sitting there. And the windows were still locked. The vents were closed. There was no explanation that didn't start with the words, "Someone was in this room." I backed out. Didn't turn around. Just moved backward like the space behind me was safer than what I just walked through. And then I smelled it again. Stronger now, closer to the source. The kitchen. There was a note. Same paper. Same handwriting. But this time he didn't fold it. He wanted me to see it as soon as I walked in. He wanted it to be the first thing my eyes landed on. It was centered perfectly on the fridge. A single strip of black electrical tape across the top. That's not improvised. That's planned. I pulled it off, turned it over. It wasn't long. It didn't need to be. I liked your hallway better. Not a threat. Not a demand. Just a preference. Like he was rearranging the house in his head. Like he'd walked the floor plan. Stood in the kitchen. Explored the hallway. And was giving feedback. As if it was his to review. I backed away. My hands were shaking. I couldn't tell if it was from adrenaline or the realization that this wasn't escalating. This was already established. I called the police. Again. Didn't even try to sound rational anymore. Just told them to come. They arrived. Checked the locks. Still sealed. Deadbolt untouched. Windows secure. They swept the house room by room. No sign of entry. No new prints. No ash. No smoke alarm triggered. One of them asked if I'd been sleepwalking. The other asked what medication I was on. They looked at each other the way people do when they've already decided something they haven't said yet. I didn't argue. Didn't tell them the camera over the hallway wasn't responding. Not yet. I called a friend. Someone who wouldn't ask too many questions. Just someone to fill the space. He walked the house. Saw nothing. Shrugged at the note. Laughed when I told him about the smell. Said I was making it worse by not sleeping. Said I needed a break. Said it's probably just my mind processing the breakup. He meant well. They always do. When he left, I checked the hallway camera. It wasn't working. No feet. No blinking light. I walked over to it. Bent down. Checked the cord. It was unplugged. Cleanly. No damage. No force. Just removed. Gently. With care. He didn't need to break in. He didn't need to rush. He didn't need to take anything. He knew where the camera was. He knew what I was watching. He knew exactly what to be invisible to. And that night, for the first time, I stopped asking how he got in. Because deep down I already knew. He never left. I used to think storms were comforting. I grew up in a house where thunder meant no one expected anything of you. Lights would flicker, the internet would drop, and for a few hours, life could pause. You could let the world outside make noise so you didn't have to listen to the one inside. That night, the forecast called for heavy rain. I remember checking it on my phone like it was good news. Like something loud was welcome now. I thought maybe for one night I wouldn't hear him. Maybe the storm would cover the footsteps. Maybe lightning would silence the knocks. Maybe the house would be too full of weather to hold anything else. I watched the clouds rolling around midnight. Thick, heavy, low to the ground like they were searching for something. The trees started leaning into the wind, not swaying. There's a difference. Swaying is soft, surrender. But this felt like the trees were bracing themselves. By 1:30 it was pouring. The kind of rain that makes you feel like the world is pressing against your windows. And then the thunder. Rolling at first, like a slow drum. Then closer, sharper. Like the sky was breaking apart in sheets. I was in the kitchen when the first flicker came. The overhead light buzzed once. Went dark. Came back. That kind of flicker doesn't just mean power. It means attention. Like the house was trying to warn me that something else was flickering too. I walked to the living room. The TV was off. I hadn't turned it on. Didn't need background noise anymore. I had too much foreground. At exactly 1:50 a.m., the lights cut out completely. No backup. No standby flicker. Just gone. The only light left came from the storm itself. Each flash of lightning giving shape to a house that felt older than it did the day before. I sat there, back against the wall, phone in hand. 1 bar of battery left. No signal. No messages. Nothing. Just me in a storm I had asked for, and now wanted to give back. That's when I heard it. Not from the yard. Not from the roof. Not from the porch. Inside. A footstep. Slow. Heavy. Too steady to be a dream. Too close to be ignored. And then another. It was moving down the hallway. Toward me. My body didn't ask for permission. It just moved. I slipped off the couch, crossed the hallway in the dark, and opened the closet door. Didn't even think about where else to go. Just moved. The hallway closet wasn't big. A coat rack above. A box of tangled cords below. I wedged myself between winter coats I hadn't worn in years. Pulled the door in slowly. Left a sliver open. Didn't latch it. Didn't want the sound. And then, nothing. I sat in that dark space and let every part of my body listen. I could hear the coats shifting with my breath. Hear the soft tick of the storm through the walls. But most of all, I could hear the house. Or rather, I couldn't. No creaks. No hum. Nothing. Like the house itself had gone silent. Not empty. Just listening to. Then I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Lower. Deeper. Close. A scratch. Just one. Then another. It didn't scrape. It tested. It was the kind of sound you make when you're not trying to open something. You're trying to see if someone's on the other side. My body froze. But my mind didn't. My mind was screaming every word I couldn't say out loud. Run. Move. Do something. But my body stayed still. Because stillness is the only thing you have left when hiding is all that's left to do. Then a voice. Soft. Too close. Not a whisper you overhear. A whisper meant for you. Jordan. He said my name. Not shouted. Not questioned. Stated. Like he already knew me. Like this wasn't the first time he'd said it. Just the first time I heard it. I don't know how long he stayed there. It could have been seconds. Could have been forever. Time doesn't move when someone is waiting for you to acknowledge them. I kept my head down. Didn't dare look through the slats. No. Lightning. One flash. And in that flash, I saw it. An eye. right in front of mine, staring through the gap, bloodshot, still, as if it had been there longer than I had. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I didn't even blink, because that I didn't blink either. It didn't flinch, didn't back away. It just stared, like it was finally satisfied, like it had been waiting all this time for me to look back. That night didn't end when he left, because I don't know if he did. I never heard him walk away, never heard the door open, never heard the storm swallow him up again. I stayed there until sunrise, afraid to open a door that had already been seen through, afraid that even if it was empty, it wouldn't feel like I was alone. There's a line between fear and survival. It's not where you think it is. It doesn't come with screaming. It doesn't come with adrenaline. It's quiet. It's the moment your body decides that explanation no longer matters. That reason is something you leave behind with the door still open. That morning, I crossed that line. I waited until the light came. I couldn't tell you exactly when. There wasn't a sunrise, just less dark, enough to make out shapes again, enough to know I was still in the closet, still curled against old coats I hadn't touched in years, still waiting for a sound I wasn't ready to hear. But it never came. No retreat, no door closing, no steps moving away. Whoever had whispered my name either never left or never needed to. I opened the closet door slowly, not because I thought it would make a difference, because I wanted the silence to last just a few seconds longer. The hallway looked normal, exactly as it had the night before, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt borrowed, returned without apology. I walked to the kitchen, each step slower than the last, not because I was afraid to see him, but because I was afraid I wouldn't. And that would mean he was still here. The note was still there, stuck to the fridge, unfolded, unchanged. I liked your hallway better. I didn't touch it, didn't even tear it down. I didn't want to know if it would be replaced. I went to the front door, unlocked it, opened it, left it open, and stepped outside. The street was still wet from the storm. The air smelled like soaked asphalt and leaves. It should have felt like morning, but it didn't. It felt like stepping out of a memory that had been waiting to swallow me whole. And now it was full. I didn't pack, didn't bring my laptop, didn't take the backup drive. I had my wallet, my keys, and a phone that had died sometime during the night. I drove straight to the police station. Didn't call, didn't stop, didn't even check the rearview mirror. I don't remember what I said. Not exactly. I just remember the way they looked at me. Not like I was lying. Worse, like they believed me and couldn't help. They took my statement. Then they took my keys. Then they sent 2 officers back with me. They asked if I wanted to go in with them. I didn't answer. They moved through the house like it was sacred ground. Quiet, measured. Their voices stayed low even though we were alone. Like the house could still hear. Like it might decide to close again. They found scratches on the inside of the closet door, right where my head had been. 4 deep lines. Rough, uneven. Not from a tool. Not from panic. They weren't trying to get out. They were testing something. Feeling the shape of the door. Mapping the pressure points. Like they planned to return. The officers looked at each other. Didn't speak. One of them pulled open a hallway cabinet. And behind it, a door. I had never seen it before. I thought it was part of the drywall. Flush with the wall. Painted the same color. But it wasn't a panel. It was a hatch. Small. Just big enough to crawl through. Behind it, stairs. Not concrete. Not modern. Old wood. Narrow. No railing. They led down into nothing. One of the officers went down. The other stayed with me. Neither said what they were thinking, but I could see it on their faces. There's nothing down here. But that wasn't true. There wasn't furniture. There weren't signs of anyone living there. But something had been there. The air was different. Flat. Thick. No dust. No spider webs. Like someone had been keeping it clean. Or moving often enough to disturb it. They came back up. Said there was nothing. Said they'd write a report. Said I could file a complaint. Said maybe I should stay with someone for a few nights. I didn't respond, because I was already gone. In my head I'd already left. I just hadn't caught up to myself yet. I walked in one more time, went straight to the desk in the living room, grabbed the only thing I thought might hold proof, the external drive. The drive had a secondary backup folder. I didn't make it, didn't label it, didn't know it was even there, but someone had saved the footage manually, sorted it by date, and labeled one file with a single number, 219. Frame 219. That was all it said. A still shot, captured during the third night. I recognized the timestamp. I recognized the position. I was running in the image, barefoot, turning into the hallway. And behind me, in the doorway of the kitchen, just a few feet back, was a face. Not a blur, not a trick of the light. A man, standing, smiling, his eyes fixed, not on the camera, but on me. I stared at that image for a long time, tried to convince myself it was old, staged, overlaid, but I remembered the moment. I remembered running. I remembered not knowing why, but now I did. I left that night, didn't even turn off the lights. I paid off the lease, sent the landlord an envelope with no return address, didn't leave a forwarding number. I moved 3 cities away. New address, new locks, new name on the mailbox, no social media, no posted pictures. But I haven't slept with the closet open since. And I still check the hallway. Every night. Even when I'm sure the doors are locked. Even when I know I'm alone. Because sometimes, you don't hear them leave. There's a myth we tell ourselves about moving on. That if we leave a place behind, block a number, change the locks, we leave the fear behind with it. That distance is safety. That silence is peace. That forgetting is the same as healing. But that's not how these things work. Not when what you left behind doesn't need permission to follow. The call came in the middle of a quiet afternoon, a Thursday. I remember that because I'd finally started making days feel like days again. They had shape. They had rhythm. And then the number came up. Not saved. No name. Just 10 digits from an area code I thought I'd erased. I let it ring. Didn't answer. Didn't panic. Just stared at it. Watched it stop. And for a second I felt okay. Until it rang again. The voice on the other end wasn't unfamiliar. But it had changed. Like someone who had spent a few nights not sleeping. Like someone who had tried to explain something they knew no one would believe. It was my old neighbor, the one with the terrier that barked every time I stepped off the porch, the one who waved but never asked questions, not when I moved in, not when I moved out. His first words weren't a greeting. He didn't ask how I was doing. He didn't joke about how suddenly I'd left. He said, "Hey, did you tell someone about that guy?" That's all he said. Not a guy. Not the break-in. Not the thing that happened. Just that guy. Like he already knew there was no other way to describe it. I didn't respond. Not right away. Because I didn't know what answer would help. Because if I said yes, I'd be admitting he was real. And if I said no, I'd be lying. Instead, I asked, why? And that's when he told me. It had started a week earlier. First, it was waking up at odd hours. Same time each night, 2:14 a.m. No noise, no dreams, just consciousness, a presence in the air that hadn't been there before. Then came the knocking. 3 knocks, evenly spaced, quiet, but heavy, like knuckles against wood with just enough restraint to be polite, but just enough force to say, "I know you're awake." He didn't answer. He wasn't stupid, but curiosity always works slower than fear. So in the morning he checked. No marks, no footprints, no one at the doorbell, just silence. He tried ignoring it, but the next night it happened again, and again, always the same time, always 3 knocks, and then the barking started. He had a dog, a small one, loud, protective. It barked so violently that night he thought someone had jumped the fence. He ran outside, but the gate was locked, and the barking stopped before he made it out, like someone had reached through the dark and pressed mute. 2 days later, the dog was gone. Not a single sound, not even a whimper in the night. He looked everywhere. No sign of a break-in, no prints in the dirt. The gate, still locked. But the next morning, taped to the door, was a photo. A full-color, printed photo. No envelope, no note. Just a piece of tape and a picture placed chest height, dead center. I asked what it showed, and for a few seconds he didn't say anything. Then he breathed, real low, like he was still holding the photo in his hand. "It's you. You're sleeping. On your side. Blanket pulled up just under your chin. Eyes closed. In your old house." I knew what he meant. He didn't need to explain the angle. He didn't need to describe the shadows. I could see it, because I'd been there, because I was there. The photograph wasn't taken from outside a window. It wasn't a zoomed-in shot. It wasn't blurry. It was crisp, framed, as if the person behind the lens had taken their time, as if they weren't in a hurry, as if they were already inside. I asked if he still had the picture. He didn't. Said he burned it that same night. Didn't want it in the house. Didn't want to scan it. Didn't want anyone else to see it. He said he'd only looked at it once. Long enough to know. Long enough to recognize the room. The face. The exact blanket he'd seen me carry in. He didn't ask if I was okay. Didn't ask where I'd moved. He just said, "I hope he didn't follow you." And I didn't know what to say. 'Cause maybe he had. Or maybe he never left. Maybe he just chose someone new. I haven't spoken to him since. Blocked the number. Didn't sleep that night. Checked the locks twice. Then again. Stared at the hallway camera until my eyes stopped focusing. I live in a second-floor apartment now. No basement. No trees outside. No porch. Just white walls. And cameras. So many cameras. But every so often just before bed, I'll see a shadow pass by the building across the street. Too fast to be certain. Too still to be ignored. He's still out there. Maybe watching. Maybe waiting. Or maybe he's already found someone new. When you survive something you can't explain, the first instinct is to try. To line up the facts. To check timestamps. To create a reason. Because if there's a reason, then there's a cause. And if there's a cause, there's control. But some stories don't want to be solved. They just want to repeat. There were theories. Plenty of them. Some from friends. Some from strangers online. Some I wish I'd never read. The police floated the idea of a stalker. Maybe a former client from my old job. Someone who found my address. Someone obsessed. But the photos, the notes, the timing, they didn't match any standard profile. Too patient. Too quiet. Too familiar. Then came the squatter theory. That someone had been living in the walls. Or beneath the house. That the unlocked basement hatch hadn't been left that way by accident. That he was always inside, just waiting for me to fall asleep. But there were no food wrappers, no bedding, no footprints, nothing human except the notes. After I moved, I looked deeper, started reading forums, old threads, unsolved stories that smelled like mine. One of them caught my attention, a Reddit post from 2019, title, "Who keeps leaving notes on my fridge?" The user described someone knocking 3 times at 2:15 a.m. A folded note, a smell of cigarette smoke, no video footage, no footprints, no answers. They stopped posting 3 weeks later. Account deleted. Then someone mentioned something older, a name I'd never heard before. The Whispering Man, an urban legend from rural Idaho. Started around 2014, described as a male figure seen standing at the edge of porches, always silent, always watching. He knocks 3 times, leaves no trace, sometimes a note, sometimes a gift. Local papers barely covered it, but one article mentioned a missing persons case. A woman, last seen in her home just outside Nampa. No forced entry. Security footage cut out between 2:12 and 2:17 a.m. The same 5 minutes missing from mine. She was never found. I don't know what happened to her. Just like I don't know what happened to my neighbor's dog, or the man in frame 219, or the person who took the photo of me sleeping. But I know this, if you're watching this because something feels off, because you heard a knock, or found a note that no one should have written, you're not the first, and you won't be the last. If you heard it tonight, 3 knocks, barely louder than a breath, at exactly 2:14 a.m., what would you do? Would you look through the peephole? Would you open the door? Would you try to explain it away with logic? Tell yourself it's just a coincidence, just the wind, just something small and harmless in the dark? Or would you stand there, motionless, and realize you were expected to answer? Because Jordan did, and he isn't the same. Not really. Was this a man? A stalker? Someone who enjoys watching, waiting, recording people in their most vulnerable state? Or was it something else entirely? Something that doesn't need doors to be unlocked. Something that knows your name before you ever hear the knock. What do you believe? Tell us in the comments. Have you ever experienced anything like this? Did you hear something that wasn't supposed to be there? Did you smell cigarette smoke in a house you've never smoked in? We want to hear your story, because the next one might be closer than you think. And if you're still with us, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, because next week's story starts with a hallway that shouldn't exist and ends with a bedroom door that wasn't open until it was.